Okay, hello everybody. This is my spoiler review for Avengers Endgame. If this isn't a movie you've seen, if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame, please end this video. This is the end game for this video for you. If you have not seen Avengers Endgame, um, if you have, like myself, seen Avengers Endgame, then this is a full spoiler review. You're gonna enjoy, hopefully, talking about this movie. If you want to chime in the comments, I'll be doing subsequent videos of my feelings and thoughts moving forward about Avengers Endgame spoilers. So yeah, I'm a little out of breath right now. I just did two videos and this is my third one. So if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame, I'm gonna do a countdown, and if you're not gone by the countdown, then I'm sorry. I'm gonna spoil the video. I don't want to spoil the video for anybody who has not seen this movie. So I'm gonna spoil the movie in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spoiler time. Okay, I can't believe I just miss. I was like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. I don't know. It's hard to talk and do finger movements at the same time. But yeah, this is a spoiler review for Avengers Endgame, and this isn't going to be a shot for shot recap of the movie. I'm just going to talk about things I like, talk about things I didn't like, because I gave this movie a 9.5 out of 10, and believe it or not, there's things I didn't like about the movie. Um, but I'm going to start positive first. I said it in my non spoiler review. This is everything you come to expect from Marvel, and then some. Um, so yeah. Anyways, movie starts. It's right after the snap, and the mission is to kill Thanos. There's nothing in between it. There's no ifs, ands, or whats about it. They save Tony Stark in space. It's Captain Marvel. I knew immediately when they started doing the musical score that Captain Marvel was coming to save Tony Stark. And as soon as that happened, I'm like, okay. That post-credit scene took place before this. And when they get back, Captain America's shaving his beard, so you know that that post-credit scene was indeed before this happened. So I think what ended up happening was that post-credit scene was a deleted scene from Endgame, and they just decided to use it as a post-credit scene. I'd be interested to know if they had anything as a backup for the post-credit scene, because I know they do the post-credit scene kind of late in the game as opposed to other scenes in the movie, but yeah, so that's what I think of that. Tony's back. He's back with Pepper. And I said this before in the movie going in. Out of everybody, I know Tony lost his surrogate son in Peter. And that's, honestly, I think that's the most devastating thing that could have happened for him, because he saw so much potential in Peter. And, so, yeah, I'm just getting emotional about it. But he lost Peter. But you think of everything else. Rhodey's still there, Happy's still there, Pepper's still there. His family, his core family that's been there throughout the three Iron Man movies and subsequent Avengers movies are still there. His family's still intact. And for him, the mission becomes, if if we're gonna bring everything back, we can't take away what I've gained in this last 5 years, because for a lot of people, they lost everyone. Like, there's a balance to the universe. It's kind of beautiful in a way, beautifully tragic. Clint loses everyone except Natasha, and then Tony doesn't lose everyone except for Peter. So I think it's just kind of ironic the way that those two characters parallel in this movie. Um, that Clint loses everyone except Natasha, his oldest friend. And Tony doesn't lose anybody except Peter, which is pretty much his newest friend. Um, so I just kind of like the mirror parallels of that. Um, Captain America without the beard, he's in full force. And I love the mission to go kill Thanos. It, um, it, I wasn't actually that surprised, to be honest. I was talking to a lot of people before this movie came out. I didn't read any of the spoilers or see any of the spoiler footage. I just kind of thought they're going to kill Thanos. I kind of guessed that they would be killing Thanos in the first act of the movie, and they did. Um, so that was a part that I just really enjoyed, uh, because it's realistic. I mean, Thanos is weakened. They're more pissed off than ever. They're the Avengers. It's time to avenge. Um, I wasn't surprised that he destroyed the stones. It was just the images that are in that fight are kind of just stained in my brain right now, where the Avengers, Captain Marvel, they go to do this, and then they're just devastated because it's too late. He used the stones to destroy the stones, and yeah, it's tough. And then you see when they do the time jump, 5 years later, and I like how slowly they did it because everybody's theorizing like, oh, was it 5 months later? Early on, I heard 5 months later was the actual time, and I'm gonna say this. This is one of the plot holes in the movie. One of the things that I can kind of nitpick at it that kind of upsets me. If this was 5 months later, I kind of think that the original draft of the movie was 5 months later because Natasha's hair would have grown a lot more than that in 5 years. I mean, I have long hair, and my hair, I got a haircut a month ago, and my hair is already back in my face. So I think early drafts of this movie may have had it at 5 months. Oh, well, you know what? No, I take that back because it couldn't have because Tony's daughter was older. So I apologize for that. But yeah, it's just one of those things. 5 years later, and this is one of those things. I'm gonna jump to the end of the movie. And again, spoiler if you don't want to hear the end of the movie. Ned and Peter just go back to high school. They go back to their lives when it's 5 years later. Does that mean they were both dusted? Does that mean everybody that's in Spider-Man Homecoming was dusted and then brought back? It just kind of creates a problem going forward in the MCU. Are they going to talk about this? Are they not going to talk about this? What's going to happen? Um, but it's one of those things that, as much as I don't really like that part, I can't wait to see how they deal with it moving forward. And so anyway, you get the time jump. Cap's in his therapy group or whatever it is. And I'm not sure if this was Joe Russo in this cameo. It looked like him. Um, and yeah, everybody's trying to move on, but they can't. And the reason why it takes so long is because that's just when Ant-Man comes back. Ant-Man comes back. He has this great reunion with his daughter, and another thing, jumping to the end of the movie again, his daughter is a teenager, so we're just she grows up and Hope and Scott stay the same age. It's just one of those things, just nitpicking. Um, yeah. So then we find out the mission. Tony jumps in. They try to get him. They don't get him. In and out, that sort of thing. Wishy washy. One of the things I have a problem with this, and this is an aesthetic choice, and I had a problem with some of the aesthetic choices of the movie. I thought Professor Hulk was ridiculous. I didn't like the look of him. I didn't like he was just talking like Banner. It bothered me, and I hope Hulk is just Hulk moving forward because I like that version of Hulk better. And they're trying to get the team back together, basically. And I like how they kind of restored the World Security Council. That's how kind of I saw it, or the Avengers across the globe. It was Okoye, it was Captain Marvel, it was Rocket Raccoon, and it was War Machine. And they were all just basically doing what they've been doing, fighting crime and terrorist threats. And Rhodey finds out that, like, we know Clint is out there being a brutal vigilante. Do we stop him? How do we stop him? Do we want to stop him? Do we even want to see him? and there's that. So they track down Clint, they get him back. It's all sad and stuff because his family died. And I didn't even mention that. First scene of the movie, I predicted this. I thought we were going to see Hawkeye's family vanish. We do. And I just want to give myself a pat on the back. I predicted that. Not that it's a hard thing to predict. It's thematically great way to start the movie because your heart's broken all over again right away. Um, ugh, yeah, he's teaching his daughter how to shoot a bow, and he's just, oh, there you go, Hawkeye. I don't know if she's gonna be the Hawkeye moving forward in the TV series. If that's who he's training, who really knows? Um, but yeah, that was one of those things that just broke my heart. Um, moving forward, you get to the plan. You get quantum realm. I said this in the video that I did for the bathroom break. They do a test. Clint goes. He sees his family vanish again. Um, and yeah, it's one of those things. And they need to use the Pym particles particularly to jump in and out of the quantum realm. That's one of the things that's needed. Sorry, just a little congested there. So them actually traveling through time was kind of a trip because Clint and Natasha go with Nebula and Rhodey to when Star-Lord is dancing in the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy. And that's something they really do good at. They reference former Marvel movies very well. Both in going to the actual time and also in just like kind of a wink and a nod to a previous movie. And that's where we get the parts where they go to the first Avengers to the film. They go to the beginning of Guardians. They go to they go to the beginning of Guardians, and then Clint and Natasha go to Vormir. And as soon as they said they're going to Vormir, I kept holding my head. I was like, oh, no, 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 because I knew that Natasha had to go, and that's where one of the one scenes of the movie where I did know what was going to happen because of the trailers, because I had seen Clint doing other things in the movie, and I hadn't seen Natasha doing other things in the movie, and I just knew that Natasha was going to have to be the one that goes. And they loved each other so much, so you have to lose that which you love. It was equal for both of them, and it was hard to watch. I like the score in this movie. One of the things I did like about it and that I don't like about it, a lot of it is recycled Infinity War score. So that's one of the things I like about it and I don't like about it. It feels very thematically connected. And yeah, the part where Natasha dies, which I can't believe happens. I mean, I'm getting upset about it right now. She's one of the staple points of the MCU. And so I guess this confirms now that the Black Widow movie is indeed a prequel. Hopefully we'll get more of her and Hawkeye. And God, that was hard. And it's one of the things I don't like about this movie is that I don't like that they kill Black Widow. I'm okay with it because that means that they didn't kill Hawkeye. If it had to be one of them, I would have chosen Black Widow to go just because I love Hawkeye. And I think there's so much more that we can get out of that character. And I think it's thematically appropriate, again, jumping to the end of the movie, that Iron Man dies and Natasha dies because they're basically the first two Avengers that we see, and War Machine 2, and Iron Man 2. And it just it ends up being a great arc for her. She even mentions at the beginning of the movie when she's talking to the Avengers, I didn't have anything, and then I had this job. And she dies to save the world, which is immediately like kind of what the job was. And see, this is one of those things, I don't get that emotional the first time I'm watching a movie, but during additional viewings, that's when I really, tomorrow I'm going to be bawling my eyes out in the theater, I know, because I know what's coming and I'm dreading what's coming, and then it happens. So one of the things I really liked was Thanos in the past becomes Thanos in the future because he takes the pin particles and goes atomic or subatomic, get through the quantum realm, which he figures out really fast. And you get all the Black Order again. You get Gamora working for Thanos, you get Nebula working for Thanos, and then Nebula kind of becomes this sleeper agent where they don't know that that's Nebula from the past who's terrible. And this is one of these points that Nebula dies, which tells me that this is a branching timeline. And that's another thing that's kind of awesome, that the Ancient One gets to explain it. During the Battle of New York, we get to see the Ancient One fighting Chitauri during the Battle of New York, and I think that's just really exciting because it's one of those characters that, like, oh, we didn't get introduced to her until Phase 2, Phase 3. But to see her in that sort of pivotal event for the MCU is incredible. And, yeah, I'm sorry if I say and yeah a lot. It's a lot to take in. And, we get to see Star-Lord dancing, which is kind of one of the funnier parts of the movie. But Rhodey and Nebula go off there. Another one of the more emotional parts of the movie is that we travel to Thor the Dark Thor. And we see Frigga, Thor's mother. And that part's, I mean, it's heartbreaking because you know what happens to her. And I'm glad that happened. I'm glad she was in the movie. Earlier we saw Tessa Thompson, which I didn't mention, as Valkyrie, which is great because she comes back later in the movie and has a lot of ass kicking to do. And yeah, so they have to get the ether from Jane Foster. I think they actually used a deleted scene from Thor: The Dark World when Rocket's actually going to take it out of her, which is interesting. And Thor ends up getting Mjolnir from that time, which is a really big plot hole for me. I'm not sure what happens with it. I guess maybe Cap takes it back there. Hard to tell. But we try to get the stones. One of the most surprising things of the movie, and I clapped when I saw it, was Robert Redford and Rumlow, Frank Grillo. I knew Frank Grillo was in the movie because he kind of spoiled that for everybody on an interview. I love the callback to Winter Soldier when Cap goes on the elevator. Like, I looked over to my dad and Devin, and I'm like, oh, this he's gonna do before we start. Does anybody want to get out? And there was a I can do this all day moment in that sequence. He's trying to get the Mind Stone, the Chitauri staff, and yeah, so they get that. They get all the stones. They go back to the 70s. Tony interacts with Howard Stark. Steve sees Peggy. It's really emotional. It's tough. My problem with that scene is how stupid Howard Stark is for just letting Tony walk out with the Tesseract. But we get all the stones. We're back in present day. Hulk says, I need to be the one to do this because I'm the only one that can take the gamma radiation. And he tries, he snaps his fingers and he brings everybody back. He tries to bring Natasha back too, and he doesn't. Apparently he doesn't bring Vision back either. They didn't even mention him. Well, Wanda did. But it's one of those things. And then this is where the big third act battle starts. Like, best part about this movie is how structured it is. First act, we go kill Thanos, get the team back together 5 years later. That's the first act of the movie. How they react to the snap. Second act of the movie, gather the stones. Third act of the movie, Thanos comes from 2014 Guardians of the Galaxy to kill the Avengers. And he knows at this point that in the future he succeeded originally. And that they reversed the snap. And he's not happy about that. He's saying, you know what? I'm snapping everybody away this time. I'm starting anew. Which is probably what he should have done in the first place. Or erased everybody's memory like what happens in the comics. Because if they can't protect the Earth, you can be damn sure they'll avenge it. Which they did. In many ways. and third act battle starts. They kind of play this game of football and keep away with the Infinity Gauntlet that Iron Man made, and it's kind of amazing to see this game of football, game of keep away, with Hawkeye has it at first, and then spoiler alert again. This is where everybody comes back. The wormholes open up. Doctor Strange is there. Wakandans come in. Ye Bombay, Ye Bombay, Ye Bombay. M'Baku's there. Shuri, Okoye, Spider-Man. Everybody who was in Infinity War and who wasn't in Infinity War. Wasp was there. Um, and you get some really cool fight sequences. The Black Order comes back. Um, Gamora and Nebula kind of, you're not sure which side they're on at first, and then they kind of choose, because at this point this is when she defects from Thanos, and she's primed. She's like, we can beat this, and she kills the former Nebula, which means that this is indeed a diverging timeline, which means there are other timelines out there. So that also means Tony Stark could come from one of those timelines in the future. Black Widow could come from one of those timelines in the future. And I hope they do, because I love those characters, and I'll always love those characters, even if I want to take a break. And this battle is just incredible. I mean, it's everything you could want to see. Valkyrie's on a Pegasus. I don't know where she got the Pegasus, but it's incredible to see. Pepper rolls in with her bluish purple armor. War Machine has a new armor. Thor has, and this is something I forgot before, Thor took Mjolnir back, which is one of my kind of biggest plot holes of the movie, but now that I think of it, they do restore it because Steve is going back to put the stones away, so you gotta assume he puts Mjolnir back too. And it's just crazy. I mean, Captain America wields Mjolnir. It's kind of like that Luke Skywalker moment that everybody talked about in The Force Awakens when the lightsaber moves in the snow. You're not sure of who's it's going to go to. And it goes to Captain America because he is as worthy in this moment as he ever will be, because when he tries to pick it up in Age of Ultron, he's just doing it to show off, and it budges because, damn it, he's worthy if anybody is. But this part, he was trying to save the universe, so it's definitely going to come to him in this moment. And Odin put the spell. Odin determines who is worthy, and obviously Odin saw Steve as worthy wherever he was. And again, I'll go back to when they see Robert Redford and when they lose the Tesseract. That's it right there. That's how Loki gets away. That's how we're having the Loki series. Because he vanishes. Nobody knows where he is. You gotta assume all the events of the other movies happened without him. And since Thanos died before he killed Loki. See, this is where the diverging timelines hurt me, because if Thanos dies before he can even do the snap, before he can even go get the stones, that means Vision's still alive. That means Loki's still alive. That means Heimdall's still alive, because he never killed them if he died before he killed them. But if he did die before he killed them, and it did still happen, that means this timeline is intact, and that everything that happened still happened. But there's another diverging timeline where it didn't happen. So it's one of those things that just gets really confusing about time travel. I hope I'm not getting too much ahead of you guys, but if you think like I do, you're on the same page. We have some great sequences in this. We get, again, Valkyrie riding on a Pegasus. Spider-Man hops aboard. When I saw that, I was like, what the hell? Black Panther, he's like, Clint, give it to me. And I love that because we haven't met yet. I'm Clint. I don't care. And it shows you he actually did care. So he knows who Clint is. And then this is where the game of Keep Away begins. It goes to Black Panther, it goes to Spider-Man, and then eventually gets to Iron Man. And this is part where Thor and Steve are dual-wielding Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. It's like, no, you take the small one. That's one of those things. I think the humor in this movie was great, but there was a few parts of it where it just didn't sit right with me. Um, Again, the Professor Hulk, the Fat Thor. I get it; it's realistic, but I just hated it. And we have this scene where it's total fan service, but all of the female characters are running towards Thanos. And again, I love it. It's total fan service, but I love it and I'm okay with it because as soon as it happened, I clapped. And this is one of those things. As soon as the third act began, me and Devin we were stood up in our seats. We were just on the edge of our seats the rest of the movie. We didn't sit back down until it was over. And it's a great battle. I mean, you got the Chitauri there, you got those Venom monsters there that uh, Thanos has. You got the Black Order, um, and it's fantastic. It's epic. It epic Game of Thrones scale battle with everybody in the MCU. Wasp is there, Valkyrie's there, Scarlet Witch is there. The only ones that aren't in the battle again: Vision, Loki, Heimdall, Sif. Like none of those people are there, but everyone that was in Infinity War plus Ant-Man and Wasp, Captain Marvel. That's one of the things Captain Marvel says in the movie. I'm glad they tell you in the movie so you're not expecting. I'm not gonna be around for a while. She says in the movie. And when she said that, I'm like, okay, she doesn't play as big a part in this movie that I thought she would. Don't get me wrong, she plays a big part. She destroys the fuck out of Thanos' ship. And it's a great moment when it happens. I think everybody in this movie pretty much has a great moment. One of the things that upsets me is that Black Widow didn't really get an action beat. Um, I would have. She gets an action beat kind of against Hawkeye, but I just wish there was a way that we could have seen her in that last battle, and it kind of makes her sacrifice all the more meaningful. I mean, I know these are fictional characters, but it means a lot because I mean, I had a spinal surgery when these movies came out, and I know it sounds cheesy, but when nobody else could be there for me, the Avengers were. I remember sitting at home watching all these movies because I couldn't get to the theater at that point. I wasn't strong enough yet. And it just, as far as these characters have come, I've come a long way too. I was able to see this movie. And, this is a hell of a time. And the fight ends with Iron Man, which is why I'm wearing this shirt, sacrificing himself. He gets this look from Doctor Strange. He knows it's gonna kill him, and he dies with his family around him. I mean, Spider-Man's there, Pepper's there, Rhodey's there, and then they have. I mean, it's beautiful. I forgot to mention in the fight, Cap's shield gets broken, and I thought that was like. So where does the shield come at the end of the movie? But everybody you see in this fight, Bucky, Falcon. Falcon's the first one to radio in. Cap. He's like, Sam? And Laura, Hawkeye's wife, radios in. She calls. That's how you know that the snap worked. The reverse snap worked, I mean. And, yeah, so Tony dies. They have his funeral. I mean, it's a heartbreaker. And you recognize everybody. Hank Pym's even there. Everybody, Fury, Happy, everybody you know and love in the MCU. And there was this one kid there that I wasn't sure who. I was like, who is that kid? And I was thinking, me and Devin were talking, and I mentioned like 5 minutes later, I was like, that kid was the kid from Iron Man 3 because there's a 5-year time jump, and if he survived the snap, he would have been in his 20s or early 20s, 1920. So he's there, and especially in the first act of the movie, I didn't mention this before. Ant-Man really. Paul Rudd, great acting. Reunited with his daughter when he's trying to say, hey, I lost somebody. Everybody else lost a lot more. We have to do this. It was beautiful. Um, Gamora had a much meatier role in this movie than I expected her to, because of course she died in the last one. But I like the way that they brought her back. It didn't undermine her sacrifice because you replace it with Black Widow's sacrifice, and God, that kills me. That and when Iron Man eventually does snap, Thanos' army turns to dust, like all the Avengers of the last movie, and it's satisfying to see. But I wish there was a way that Thanos could have lived, just because he's such a menacing threat. But we got so much more going on. I didn't stay through the credits just because I really had to go to the bathroom. Um, but I heard there was not a post-credit scene. Um, I will stay through the credits tomorrow night just because I have no. I'm gonna be staying in the theater anyway. And yeah. So if you saw this movie, and I hope you did because you spoiled it at this point. Here's to the MCU. Here's to Black Widow, Iron Man, Thanos. Incredible movie, an incredible run. Kevin Feige, Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, everybody involved. Um, and at the end of it, we only lost 2 Avengers, so I would have expected more of them to die, but I think we did good. I'm excited about the TV shows, especially. I think every single TV show that was announced was set up. You had that moment with Scarlet Witch and Hawkeye. So they're setting up those 2 TV shows. You have that moment with Bucky and Falcon and Cap passing on the mantle of Captain America to Falcon. And I'm glad it was him because I think it's really great to have an African American as Captain America. I mean, I think that's important. The future is diverse, and more power to him. I don't think he's going to stay Captain America forever. I honestly do think Chris Evans will come back in 10 years, reclaim the mantle, because they can just pluck him out of time. They know how to do it now. And yeah, so those shows are set up, and the Loki show is set up because he just, where'd he go? So a lot of it's going to be interesting. It's interesting to see how the timeline of the MCU is set up. I think Thor might be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 the way they set it up. Um, or maybe that the Guardians are in Thor 3, or maybe those movies are just combined. But it was nice to see Korg and Meek. It was great seeing Valkyrie. Uh, yeah. So I love this movie again. 9.5 out of 10. Thank you for joining me for this spoiler review, spoilery and gorgeous in all of its spoilery detail. And I'm gonna see the movie twice more tomorrow night, and we'll have some subsequent content then. And please stay tuned. Please subscribe. Please comment. Whatever you have to say, I want to hear it. So good night and good luck.